Your mother lives here at MorningStar.
She does.
And has Alzheimer's.
She has, dementia.
When was she diagnosed?
Interestingly enough, I don't think that she was actually formally diagnosed until 2016. I took her to the brain center in Las Vegas. And that's when we ran her through a battery of tests, and the doctor essentially, well, he didn't essentially, just told us that she had vascular dementia, and that's the conclusion that they came to.
Were there things leading up to getting that test that you were noticing?
It's kind of a long story, but the condensed version is that I've always kind of known that something was going wrong with her mind, in her late 50s. Her and my father, my stepdad, were retired, and they did a lot of traveling. And probably during the last 10 to 15 years, it became really apparent to me that there was something wrong, but my dad was very protective of her, and he never allowed her to be by herself. And it got to the point during the last, 5 to 7 years that it was impossible to be around my mom by herself because my dad would always want to be part of the conversation. And you start picking up on all the little nuances, where he answers all her questions for her. And even, I've always been really close to my parents and my mother. And, it wasn't uncommon for me to call them, once a week, no matter where they were, whether they were in Nevada or Mexico or Idaho or wherever they were. And the conversations were getting shorter and shorter, and her side of the conversation was, just diminishing to the point where she would just basically say yes and no to questions and things like that. So in 2015, my dad got sick. It turned out he had a brain tumor. And I took both my mother and father to Mexico because he had been receiving treatments down there for leukemia for probably 20 years. And he passed away down there while we were receiving treatments. And as soon as he did, my mom couldn't function. So I brought her back to Nevada, which is where I live part-time, in Las Vegas, and we have the Lou Ruval Brain Center there. I got online and they had a little questionnaire that you could fill out, and I filled it out and asked for an appointment. And lo and behold, like a week later, I got a phone call and they scheduled an appointment for me, which I didn't. I thought it was going to be packed and I'd never get her in there. And anyway, so we went there and saw the doctor quite a few times, and they ran a battery of tests on her, and that's when they came up with the conclusion that she had vascular dementia.
Normally on Life Lessons, we interview elderly people that share things they've learned throughout their lives, and the next few weeks we're doing it a little different, leading up to the Alzheimer's Walk, which is in September. And the purpose of that walk is to raise awareness, to hopefully raise funding to find a cure for dementia, for Alzheimer's. But because this is called Life Lessons, what are some of the things you've learned as a caretaker for your mom, for somebody that's going through this over the past few years?
I didn't want this to happen.
You're fine.
It's a brutal disease. As a caretaker, I really tried to educate myself. Before I even took my mom to the Lou Ruval Center, I was busy doing my research. And with my father being sick and me, taking them down to Mexico and taking care of him, I was trying to educate myself on being a caregiver. So it was a kind of a combination of things. So being a caregiver, a 24-hour-a-day caregiver, you can think you're going to be really good at it, or you can try really hard to do it, but eventually it's just going to eat away at you, and it becomes very difficult. And as your parent gets worse, it becomes even more difficult because things are constantly in transition. So, you know, I would have to say one of the lessons that you have to learn is, you know, when to ask for help. And I thought I could do it by myself. And I tried to educate myself. I took classes. I was part of some group therapy with other people who were taking care of loved ones. You just have to know when to say no, when enough is enough, and make that decision, as tough as it is. You know, to put your mother someplace where she has people who care for them 24 hours a day. And that's how I ended up here at MorningStar.
Most men want the solution immediately, or they think they can solve it. And okay, she's got Alzheimer's, tell me what I need to do, this, we'll get it going. And I would imagine this is one of those things you just don't know. You just don't know how it's gonna go.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the other things, because I'm a fixer. I mean, I spent my whole career fixing things for people. And that was actually the line in the sand for me when I realized that there wasn't an answer. There just wasn't. I couldn't fix it. And we had a moment when I think we both realized it at the same time, she and I, and we both broke down and realized that this was going to be the best solution under the circumstances.
What would a cure do for you and your family?
I'm a pretty realistic guy. I mean, I think it goes without saying, if my mom was cured, she could live in her home and I could oversee things for her and she would be happy. And you know, throughout this entire thing, it's like a constant question. It's like, Mom, what can I do? You know, how can I make your life better? You know, you just have to realize you put your life on hold and you just do what you have to do as a caregiver. I mean, that's just what you do. Your parents took care of you your whole life until you grew up and moved out, and you care about them. And I've always had a close relationship. So.
There are millions of other people in your shoes watching, or that will be in your shoes one day.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for sharing your thoughts
pleasure.
with us, and we wish the best to you and your mom, and we will have more information on the Alzheimer's Walk at the link down below. You can click on that and attend, and hopefully in I don't know how many years we won't have to have these conversations because there will be a cure.